Hey everybody. Thank you to Chris and Jen for joining me for a unscripted conversation about nesting. And you guys probably, when we started talking about this topic as something that we wanted to highlight in one of our months of the year of care, which is what the Center for Food Equity and Medicine has dedicated 2024 to be, we thought about this idea of how do you care for your nest. And I know that both of you kind of come at that from different angles that I thought really would be appreciated in a conversation today. So to give a little context for anybody who watches this, um, the concept of nesting, right? We all think about with regard to animals, and especially our friends who are invertebrates. Think about and then we think about some animals like birds and other animals that prepare a nest as they prepare to bring young into the world. And humans, we talk about nesting as a part of our ritual and preparation for us bringing humans into our homes. And some people believe that it's hormonally driven, that those who identify as female or who can become pregnant will have, as a part of their hormonal progression toward delivery, will have this sense of creating this space. But I've seen both of you do it outside of that context in terms of just thinking about how you prepare your spaces. And I just wanted to highlight that today because I think both of you do it so well. And I think sometimes it's a scary topic because we don't really know what to do in our homes and we don't know how to care for our homes. So that's why I've invited you to chat with me so we can talk a little bit about it. May I ask you first to identify who you are and maybe what your relationship is to the Center for Food Equity and Medicine. And I am remiss because I didn't start. I am Ann Jackson, the executive director and founder of the Center for Food Equity and Medicine. And as I mentioned, we have dedicated 2024 to the year of care. And during this month, we want to talk about how do we care for our nest and what does that mean to nest. So may I ask, Chris, may I ask you to introduce yourself first?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. And I'm Chris Rosandich. I work at the Cancer Support Center. I have been here a while. I've been here about 17 years. I'm their nutrition educator and life coach. I teach a lot of programs. We care deeply about this topic. I love what you say, year of care. I just think that's magnificent. So, yeah, I am passionate about taking care of your nest, making sure that your environment is just the way it needs to be for a person to feel calm and to, excel.
And I'm looking behind you, and I don't know if that's your office or not, but that space looks very inviting. And maybe that's one of the things that, as I was learning a little bit about this concept, as we apply it in our lives, one of the things was, just as you said, just kind of bringing this global sense of peace into the space and making the space inviting. And as I look behind you, like I love the pillows, I love the throw that's on the chair. The colors are very inviting. And that's why I picked my background. It's not my nest, but I thought if I were to have a nest, if I were to, think about what I liked out of the choices that were available, I really like this background because I feel like these colors kind of represent some of the things I like in the openness. So Jen, may I ask you to introduce yourself?
Well, hi, I'm Jennifer Washington, and I am a new board member at the Center for Food Equity and Medicine. But I've been volunteering with the organization for maybe 2 or 3 years now, and really getting engaged with some of the programming, some of the fundraisers that we've put on. And it's just been a real whirlwind and a real joy. And my connection to nesting is, I don't know, it's just something that's in me that I just really enjoy providing for myself and for my family, building a home and acquiring, how little birds go out and get the wool and the leaves and the sticks. So I like to gather things just like that, curate my nest so that it is so much us, and it becomes a really soft place to fall at the end of a hard day. We can just return back to the nest and feel restored and rejuvenated to go out to the next day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that as I mentioned, I have seen you both kind of demonstrate these nesting behaviors. And so what I'd like to start with is kind of starting with Jennifer first. When you think about creating a ritual, so when you talk about transition into your home, we think about like coming in almost like we went out like a big gangbuster, because we're hurried, we've got bags, we've got people to get places. But I'm thinking about a transition to come back into my home before I even get to my nest. Like if I was flying close to my nest, what kind of transition behaviors do you have, or that that seem to like help you to kind of know you're going back into a safe place, a place where you can rest? Do you have any practices like that?
No, I can't think of anything that I do consciously. I do try to transition from work to home. A lot of times I like just to have a quiet car, no music, no sound. Sometimes I do with, news programs or podcasts or something like that. But I think in the beginning, I like it to be quiet and to reset from the school day, and then just, of course, then the mind starts working on your 4 to 9 job. So what's for dinner and that kind of thing, and just sort of getting ready and preparing for that. But once I hit the driveway, it's on.
All right. And how about you, Chris? Do you have a routine or practices that you might be able to share, or practices that you have heard of that might be helpful as people think about how I transition to my nest?
Well, I think it's a really important topic, Anne. So thank you for bringing that up. I am really spiritual. I'm a Christian, and it's important for me to pray on my way home. Sometimes that thought that just keeps recirculating in your mind, sometimes I need to learn, I need to dismiss it. So I do that through prayer, and I spend some time in gratitude, and just kind of thinking about all of the blessings that I have. So that kind of calms me. I listen to Christian music, or maybe a Christian podcast. So that helps me to transition into the next place or time period, which, like you had mentioned, 4 to 9, what's for dinner?
And I think that for those who are not of the Christian faith, I think the piece I'll highlight especially is this idea of gratitude. And I think that no matter what centers you, being able to sit in gratitude throughout your day, but certainly as you transition from one part of your day to the other, and be reflective of what you've been able to contribute in a space, what that space has given to you during the day. I think that's a really powerful tool to help us all kind of reimagine who we are, what we've contributed to the day. So I really love that. And I like that both of you talk about the use of music or the use of sound in that practice. And so I wonder sometimes, like I know at the Cancer Support Center, there are bowls. They're like Tibetan bowl practices, and people can use chimes. I like a gong that can sometimes just signal this transition from one to another. So I love the idea of using sound in those spaces. And so when you think about, and Jen, I'm going to kind of go to you with regard to the space. What makes your space, and I say your space, your home, what makes it a nesting space? And then as you gave us that beautiful visual about picking twigs and little pieces of fabric and putting them together, how do you do that? How does one, because it can seem overwhelming for anybody to say, I've got to personalize the space, my office, my locker, whatever it is. So how do you, because you're very good at this, how do you think about this and how do you approach this? Just in a, just kind of give us
succinctly. It started, well, as I said, today is our 36th wedding anniversary. So it started there, thank you, with the bringing together of both of our things, things from his family, things from my family, and building this new family out of that. And so from there, luckily we have the same, my husband and I share the same tastes and same lifestyle, more relaxed kind of lifestyle. So it's just a matter, the twigs and the fabric is just a matter of finding things that you connect with in nature or in the wild when you're out shopping or whatever. It's not about walking into a store and saying, oh, look at how nice that vignette is with the couch and the table and everything. It's really connecting with something. And it feels like home to you. And so when you bring it home, you might not have a place for it at that time, but trust and believe it will come about. You will find some place to put it and it'll fit right in. And so it's just been years and years of just listening to my instincts and feeling what I feel when I see something or colors or whatever, and knowing that it would fit right in with the rest of the things that I have. And it just helps to deepen my sense of home.
Oh, that's beautiful, Jen. That is beautiful. And Chris, when I think about this beautiful, welcoming space that Jen has created, one of the things that you constantly remind me of is how do you care for that space? And so you gave us an incredible handout that we are going to share via our social media platforms on clean living. And I definitely think a clean nest is great. I mean, we know for our bird friends, we don't want them to have infestation of rodents or any other organisms that will impede their ability to reproduce or get their chicks off healthily, and to give them a healthy start into life. And so I'm going to just ask you to highlight a bit for us when you talk about clean living. You really talk about like taking a lot of toxins out. And so I know that's a broad statement, but can you kind of give us an idea, like maybe a couple cleaning products that maybe we don't need in our lives that could be substituted with something that's more in the natural world, like Jennifer's talking about?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. At the Cancer Support Center, we talk about mind, body, and spirit. And that extends out into all topics. And I just wanted to touch back about maybe perhaps the drive home for somebody. And it could mean even just deep breathing, a yoga breath, which there's a term for this yoga breath called 4-7-8, and you literally hold, taking a deep breath, hold it for 7 counts, and then breathe out for 8. And so there's all kinds of ways to look at this in terms of mind, body, spirit. What you're referring to in terms of clean living is a concept we teach at the Cancer Support Center. We offer these programs both in Homewood and Mokina, but it's looking at...
Let me stop you right there. You can also do these things online. Like you don't have to physically come in
That's
to
right.
the Cancer Support Center. You can do all of this. You've got archived materials on the website that people can get to. It doesn't matter if they've never been there before. These things are publicly available. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely. And I think what one of the blessings is they're free. But
Yes.
to take that concept, if we could look at the ingredients and uh, start using products that are supernatural, that are not going to impede on our immune function, they're not going to cause our liver, kidneys, some of our organs to have to overwork, so to speak, perhaps getting rid of bleach, getting rid of Comet Cleanser, getting rid of Pine Sol, getting rid of some of these products that manufacturers have really bombarded us with in terms of marketing and making us believe that that's what we need to use to clean our house and achieve a clean environment, and that's
Mhm.
not true. So the alternative would be vinegar, something that our grandmothers used, um, to use a Dr. Bronner's, to use things that are supernatural,
Mhm.
essential oils. And there has been study after study to show that they can kill organisms, much like the flu viruses that we face all of the time. So it's exciting to be able to know that when you clean your kitchen counter, you don't have to worry about if you drop some of the food for your grandchild or your child, that there's going to be toxins on there, right?
Residue from toxins that you use to clean.
Yes,
Mhm.
knowing that
Mhm.
when you clean your bathtub or your sink, that you're using such natural products that when you get back in your bathtub, you don't have to worry that there's residue from these toxic
Mhm.
products.
And
So,
so Chris, let's home in for just a second. If I were going to, and I love the two places that you picked because I am always there, my counter. And so I want to make dinner. It's 4. I'm in that 4 to 9 window. I want to make dinner, but I need to clean the counter first because we made breakfast there. Someone made lunch there, and I want to prepare it so that I can get ready for dinner. How am I going to clean my counter? What based on the information that you have been working on through this concept of clean living, what what am I going to clean my counter with?
well,
What would you
and
what are some options? What are some options for me?
this topic seems so basic, like we should all know it, but it's interesting when you really dive into the research, what does that mean? And
Mhm.
I'm speaking based on two certifications in hygiene and sanitation. So it's something really important at the Cancer Support Center that when we're providing food through our cooking demos, that we're providing food that is prepared correctly. So number one, about 97% of the bacteria um, will be discarded if you just use soap and water. It's interesting that the friction will get rid of a lot of bacteria. So using a Dr. Bronner's product that's been around for a long time, or just a gentle cleansing product, like a surface cleaner, and washing that area, then coming back and spraying it with a little bit of vinegar and leaving it on for 10 minutes, that will now kill about up to about 99.5% of most bacteria in the home. Now, and so you're good to go. Now, the caveat is if you're working with meat, and now you have to be really careful. You want to use a separate counter, a separate cutting board, but now you might want to use something like that is a disinfectant for that area, and the sink and the knife that you're preparing it. So that's a little separate, but you want to go a little bit above and beyond for that. But all in all, you don't need to use bleach, oh my gosh, for
That I mean
all areas of
that
your home.
yes, I was going to say that's probably something we could spend an hour talking about. But so tell us about the bathtub. What I mean, I know
Okay.
you to your point. These are things that people may or may not know about because I think that we've all been bombarded by some of the marketing that you're talking about, and we've fallen into these patterns. And I think that one of the things that you and Jen are, and hopefully this conversation is helping people think about is how do I change? How do I become more mindful about what I'm doing. And so, setting up myself for success in my home. So how am I going to successfully clean this bathtub so that when I get ready to get in it later, I don't have to come back and rinse residue off because I've used a harsh cleaner 45 minutes ago.
Well, I just want to point out, because I think it is a mindset, and just to take it slowly, you're not going to change some of the behaviors or some of the products that you've been using forever. You might have grown up with those products, and so just be real gentle with yourself, knowing it's one step at a time. Starting to maybe look at a website, EWG, Environmental Working Group, which is a really respected website, and they're going to let you know which products are more dangerous than other products. I do want to just touch on, Anne, if you would allow me to. Bleach in the workplace needs to be handled with care, and staff that uses bleach or bleach products need to wear goggles, gloves, and it's just they need to be super careful with how they're dealing with bleach. But at home, we don't follow those same careful practices. So it needs to be diluted, all of that. So if people are still thinking that the way they're cleaning their house is to use bleach, I would love for them to do a little bit more research, and I can send that to them if they would need to. In terms of the bathtub, I know I've mentioned Dr. Bronner's like 3 times, but it's natural. You can use it on your skin. You can wash your hair with it. It's been around for 100 years, and it's just one example of a wonderful product.
A product line. It's a whole product line.
It's a whole product line.
Yeah.
And even like 7th generation. And again, I'm only picking 2 product lines. There's plenty of product lines. There's plenty of products such as natural soaps and natural shampoos and natural lotions. But in terms of the bathtub, when I use my Dr. Bronner's and it's super sudsy and I'm in there and I'm rinsing it, I don't have to worry about my grandbabies getting back in because there is no dangerous residue. So it's very comforting to me. And you can use that on your sinks. In terms of toilet, you don't need bleach, in my opinion, and based on research, because we're not eating dinner off the toilet seat. If that sounds pretty nasty, but really it's about washing it and that friction with maybe a Dr. Bronner's, and then coming back and spraying it with vinegar. Vinegar kills that bacteria, leaving it on for 10 minutes, walking away. So it's exciting when you start to think about clean living, getting rid of fabric softener, getting rid of Febreze, getting rid of all of these aerosols that are hurting the environment. So not only for the environment, but for ourselves, our families, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that as when I think about the application for people who've had a cancer diagnosis, I think both of you offer some really wonderful portals toward improvement in our quality of life. And I think I'm going to start with you, Chris. I think that even though some of these products, like one of the things that you talk about is the BONAMI powder cleanser, which I always spell it first because I always will not, I'm not going to pronounce it well, but the BONAMI powder cleanser, we have gone to that, replaced our Ajax or Comment, and use that as a product now. And I think to your point, sometimes it's thinking about one product at a time. And bleach for many people is probably the hardest to give up. But I do think, and I'm going to ask you if you could please share with us a reference or two about this vinegar use and killing bacteria and being able to sit on a surface for a finite amount of time, and then the result being this reduced presence of bacteria. We'd love to share that on our platforms as well as the handout that you sent us. So I agree with you. I think choose products that you can, and even if you are on a very limited budget, we talk about the use of vinegar, baking soda, lemons, things that are readily available that you can make, that you can create cleansers and space, you can clean your windows, your counters. So I think those products are in most people's homes. But if not, we can focus on those a little bit. If we can't think, well, I can't buy some of the more expensive things, don't let that be a barrier. Just do what you can do and kind of start somewhere. And then we're going to share this handout because all of these products are available in grocery stores or on Amazon. And Amazon, so you're not limited. You don't have to have a private membership to get to any of these products. These things are, things that you can find. And now, because so many stores are moving toward healthier living, reducing your toxins, they too have them on the shelves from Aldi's, Walmart, Target, as well as the ones that you would think would already have these kind of products. So go find them. They're available. We're going to put this handout and start where you can. Start with something. And I think that for us, we started with dye-free laundry detergent, just moving away from all these colors, the perfumes, and just trying to move to something. And there was no difference in price. I didn't see any difference in quality. So I think get in where you fit in and then start growing from there. I think that's really what you're telling us. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And
do you mind me jumping in here and just agreeing with your point about saving money? Actually, not having to go to the hardware store or the grocery store and buying a whole slew of products when you do limit it to like a Dr. Bronner's, which is a fairly large bottle and you need a very, very little bit, or a vinegar, very, very cost effective. You now don't need all of those products like Pledge and everything. Jen probably, she's shaking her head and she's, we're all kind of in agreement on that. So you're saving money anyway. I think it's important to think about that.
No, I do. I agree. And thank you for circling back with that
situation.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And Jen, the same with you. I mean, just thinking about just taking over what we can. And before I let you both go, I just wanted to ask one other question. I know we've extended our time, but I think this conversation has been so helpful. Jen, two questions for you. One, in your home, in your nest, are there focal points? You talked about picking things that you like that you may not do anything with right away. Are there focal points or are there themes? Because you mentioned, bringing his stuff with your stuff or whomever your partner might be, or, whatever it is that you want in your home. But are you anchored in art? Are you anchored in fabrics? What anchors your nest?
All of that. Mostly art. One of my favorite rooms to sit in is the living room. I would say we're in the living room and the kitchen mostly. And we are surrounded by family portraits, but also family paintings. I have two artists in my family, my mother and a great aunt. And we have several of their pieces in that space. But we also have furniture that belong to relatives. My husband's grandmother, we have her dining table, which is over 100 years old. My grandmother's corner table works as a bar in our dining room. So it's almost like you're gathering with old friends. So there's a rocking chair that belonged to my husband's maternal grandmother. So we have been blessed to be the stewards and the keepers of these collected memories for his family and for mine. And so it's just lovely to gather with them and to sit with them and be with them. And it just grounds you. And I think that when people come to your home and they see how comfortable you are in your space, then they become very comfortable in your space. And so, as you live in your home and you enjoy it and love it, then so shall anyone that visits and that you welcome into that space.
And I just want to, my last question for you is that if I'm not a person who is a lover of old things, like my grandmother's rocking chair, my great auntie's tea set, even people who have a modern eye can create nesting spaces, right? Because it's not necessarily about having that that part of the story with you. It could be whatever it is that makes your story. Is that what you, is that also what you're saying?
Absolutely. Those are the things that speak personally and connect personally to me. But
Mm-hmm.
if you know, you're out there and you see something that's shiny and new that you absolutely connect with and love, it speaks to you, well, I'll get it, have it.
Yeah.
uh, and then, you know, find its companions, all the other things that you love, and figure out how to have them have harmony in your home. So
Mhm. Perfect.
yeah, it
That's
can be old,
Yeah.
it can be new. I
It,
would say the best is the mix of both,
yeah.
which
mix of
is
both.
And
what we do.
Yeah.
and along that line, one of the concepts that we teach here at the Cancer Support Center is just decluttering,
Yes.
just decluttering. And that's a topic in and of itself, but
Yes.
sometimes
Yes.
just clearing the mind. And this is an opportunity to be able to give things away that you're not using anymore, that doesn't speak to your soul, right? So,
Mhm.
Yeah, 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 and
Absolutely.
yeah. And so my last question to both of you, before our director comes back, is when you think about this concept of nesting, and we've talked a lot about how do we prepare the nest, what the nest should look like. I'm just curious about how you celebrate yourself in your nest. So, like we work hard, we come to this nest, but I think one of the things that people don't do enough of is just celebrating themselves, just celebrating. So, you've had this day, you've talked about your gratitude on your drive home, and now you're in your nest. It's the way you like, it smells, it's place of reduced toxins. But what can we do to celebrate ourselves within our nest that really speak to either one of you, or traditions that you've seen other people do that may make sense when you're a person who's going through a cancer diagnosis, or you are a caregiver for somebody that's going through that, and the days are long, sometimes they're very heavy, and sometimes you're not even sure what tomorrow will bring. And I'm just wondering, in my nest, what can I do that could be restorative, just restorative for me in that moment? And that's the last question I have for both of you. Chris, I'm going to ask you that first.
for me, food is so healing. We know that food is medicine. And so to be able to come into the home and not spend a lot of time preparing it, but knowing that I'm going to be able to drink clean water and fruits and vegetables and whole grains and clean meats, and just be able to maybe take time in the kitchen and prepare and cook a little bit. Um, to me, that's emotionally comforting. That's what I need after a long day. Not maybe to have the television blaring, maybe to have music on the background, and to know that my space is not cluttered. I'm able to eat some good, clean food, which really, especially now in the summer, those are the affordable foods, right?
Mhm.
That we can find at farmers markets and such. So it's just, I've learned after raising three children and living with my husband that if my environment is decluttered and a little bit organized and a little bit, tidy, I feel calmer.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's what speaks to you and your spirit,
Mm,
and how you're organized, how your system is
mhm.
organized. Mhm.
Yep.
Yep. Jen, how about for you? What is a tip or something you might offer that you do that is that others could do that is restorative for you? So cooking is for Chris, or enjoying a good meal with people that she loves. It sounds like is very restorative for her. What might that be for you?
For me, it's making sure that, just like with Chris, sights and sounds. I really love to put on my diffuser, another use for essential oils, and get that going, and that can bring me comfort. But I would say romanticizing those everyday tasks. When you think about taking I gotta, instead of thinking of it as drudgery, I gotta take the dishes out of the dishwasher. just really relish in
love that.
taking those dishes out and putting it in there and thinking there's that avenue for gratitude as well. I have these plates that my children and my family eat on. I'm able to feed them. They're dirty because they ate, which is such a blessing. And putting the glasses away, and I would say the organization of my home is set up in such a way for myself that it's just easy to put things where they belong. Everything has a home, so it's not a matter of just putting it and causing more clutter, but actually putting it away and seeing the dishwasher cleared. That's a real relief for me. Having my sink empty is another, and I can put the new dishes into the dishwasher. But wiping down the table and making it clean and getting it ready to prepare the meal on. That's another place that you can sort of romanticize that. Putting candles on, beeswax or scented is the safest, but putting candles, lighting, or even battery operated candles. They give the same sort of feeling, but they give that hygge feeling and that really romantic way of just celebrating your home. It's just an ordinary Monday, but I've got a candle on the table. And doesn't that just feel so welcoming, cozy, soft, and calming? So I would say that would be the way to do it.
Those are incredible tips, guys. I'm writing them down because I'm going to implement some of these this evening. But I also want to say that when you're not feeling well because of your diagnosis, or if you're tired because, again, you've been caring for someone all day, just giving yourself a moment to sit down. That sometimes for me, I have no idea how powerful just stopping can be and just giving myself a moment to just sit down. I mean, the chaos sometimes has to continue around me because I'm not always able to control all of those variables, but just to be able to sit down for a second, catch my breath, can be so restorative. And I think when someone has a cancer diagnosis, they want all those things that you guys are talking about, a clean house, but sometimes it's not possible. It's just not possible. And so I just want to say that, like, in those moments, grant yourself some grace, some mercy, do what you can when you can, and even if you can't control what happens in your larger environment, maybe sometimes it's just about just taking care of yourself as best you can, or asking a friend to help if you need help, or even someone that you think, I always refer to them as your first string, second string, third string friends. You never know where grace and mercy will come to you, and how people who you don't think care a lot about you, how they will step in and help if they just only knew that you needed a little help. So I think you guys have given us some great strategies, some great tidbits, and also I think I'm leaving this conversation with just a little more sense of calm and an ability to just celebrate, my space and think about it. So I know we have had a really long conversation, but I think it was really helpful to dig a little deeper and to talk a little bit more. So I just thank both of you, Chris, Jen. Thank you for sharing what you do to create nests, cultivate nests, care for nests, so that when all the birdies land, wherever they come from, that they are feeling loved. And I think, like Chris, you alluded to, in the times that we live in, we all need a hug. We all need a little kindness. So thank you guys for sharing with us how we could create that for ourselves, a bit of that for ourselves and for those around us. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I just say one more thing? The space doesn't have to be a grand space. You can create a small space, a chair and a table, and a room with a window, and that is nest enough.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks
for having us.